by you.
Report on in the next half hour.
Well, Silverstone is one of the fastest circuits the Formula One cars compete on. Lap speeds average over 150 miles an hour and top speed is over 200. A track suited for the powerful yet fuel-efficient Williams Hondas. When the light turned green, the Williams cars with Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell on the front row were soon to be passed. Alain Prost from fourth starting position took command briefly into turn one, but soon lost the lead when the powerful Hondas got racing room. Piquet and Mansell took off from the rest of the field as others began to drop by the wayside. Andrea de Cesaris Brabham caught fire, but Andrea climbed out okay. And Pascal Fabre in the AGS Ford also had flames at the rear of his car. Mansell was the only one of the front runners to pit for tires, but his brief stop, although it kept him in second, dropped him 28 seconds behind Nelson. Mansell began to move up quickly, passing slower cars with precision. But now there was a question of fuel. Prost ran in fourth for most of the race, but suddenly pulled from the course. Nigel closed the gap and with a daring inside move squeezed by Piquet and drove to his second consecutive British Grand Prix victory. The Lotuses were third and fourth. Senna, never really a factor a lap down at the finish, was third. And his teammate Satoru Nakajima carried the in-car camera and wound up fourth. Although he had enough fuel to finish the race, Nigel's car stopped on the cool-down lap and was surrounded by hundreds of British fans. Heading for Hockenheim in 2 weeks, the points are tight. Senna still leads with 31, but Mansell and Piquet are tied for second with 30. Defending champ Prost is fourth, and his teammate Stefan Johansson is a distant fifth. Alain Prost, still looking for his record 28th Grand Prix victory, will go after it at Hockenheim in 2 weeks.
This week's Bendix Trans Am plot, not much of a mystery again, but a little different. But the solution was the same.
We've had 4 races this year and 3 rule changes against the Mercurs, and I really think that that's not quite right. I think everybody's learning and things are coming together, and for that they seem to be slapping us down. I really don't agree with that.
Scott has won 3 of the 4 races, teammate Peter Halsmer the other, and stated another way.
It's not necessarily the Camaro technology against, let's say, the Mercur technology. It's the normally aspirated cars against the turbocharged technology, basically.
Co-star with the Mercurs, Porsche and Elliott Forbes Robinson, also starring in IMSA GTBs, practices lines here with Scott before the play begins. Another key supporting actor, one P.L. Newman. The curtain at Mid-Ohio, as always, unusual, goes up backstage on the long back stretch. First time by on center stage, Pruitt leads. An award-winning performance by all the lead characters. Halsmer out front some, and then EFR, seemingly with the race won, then he drops by the wayside. The leading man continues to be Pruitt, having led now more than 60% of this year's laps, finishing every one of them, and now 4 Oscars out of 5.
At Summit Point, West Virginia, Willie T. Ribbs led Jack Baldwin and Tom Gloy in the early stages of the IMSA GTO GTU race. It was one of those events where occasional Greg Pickett in a Corvette moved to second when Gloy and Baldwin crashed and helped leader Ribbs spin off course in an incident Pickett would later apologize for. Greg was also a spin victim while leading the 300-kilometer chase, and so was Ribbs' teammate Chris Cord in the very next turn. On the 60th lap, Ribbs charged from the pits after taking on new tires and fuel to try to catch Pickett, who was back in the lead again. But for a second time, Greg loses control and slides off course. He does charge back, however, to second, as Willie T. won his third in the last 4 GTO races for happy car owner Dan Gurney, whose other driver Cord was third. Amos Johnson was the GTU winner and 5th overall in the Team Highball Mazda RX-7. Although both Jack Baldwin and Tom Gloy were released after being checked at the track hospital, Baldwin was said to have suffered a slight concussion in that accident.
And Bob Cord's third-place finish keeps him on top of the point standings in GTO. Tom Kendall, of course, leads in GTU points.
The Indy cars make their second ever appearance at Toronto's Exhibition Place this weekend. Bobby Rahal is the defending champion. By the way, he has won the second quarter balloting for Driver of the Year award. He joins first quarter winner Dale Earnhardt. Tim Richmond and Davey Allison were second and third in the second quarter voting. Fourth was drag racer Dick LaHaye by virtue of 3 straight NHRA wins. It was the highest a drag racer has finished in the quarterly voting in the 20-year history of that award.
Reported this week that Mario Andretti's nephew John has secured the IndyCar ride that Steve Chessie had at the Indy 500. Car owner Lydia Lockery is looking for a Andretti's first race could be at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan the first weekend of August, providing he passes a driver's test. John is 24 years old. Now that's the same age that Mario was when he got his start in Indy cars.
Speedweek is brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Radios. We make your car perform. By Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Busch Beer. The beer with a taste as smooth as its name.
After this, the sky is literally the limit in this race to the clouds.
And back on the ground, too much sky is over the limit.
Bob Strange, BF Goodrich test engineer.
The trick to building great all-terrain tires is making them as good off-road as on. All-terrain TAs from BF Goodrich are tested in some of the roughest off-road situations in the world. I believe TA radials are the best performance tires in the world, and I torture them to keep them that way.
TA radials from BF Goodrich, tested tough to make your truck perform. You are about to see the smartest oil change you can make. Introducing a new Quaker State motor oil. Now Quaker State has a revolutionary formula called QSX. QSX fights engine choking sludge better than other leading oils to keep oil flowing to vital engine parts. For a cleaner, longer-lasting engine, change your oil. Really change your oil to new Quaker State with QSX, the smartest oil change you can make. No matter how Dodge makes it look, winning ain't easy.
When the road is long and the going gets tough, less than your best is never enough. But the dream of winning lets you meet the test, because winners are dreamers who give it their best. And if winning was easy, why run the race? You'd be number one if you don't set the pace. At Dodge we know there's only one first place. If winning was easy, it wouldn't be a race.
At Dodge, we set the pace.
Although they've been racing up Pikes Peak for 65 years, this year for the first time the rally divisions were part of a new two-race FIA Intercontinental Hill Climb Challenge. The other race will be in Germany. Jerry Garrett begins his report with shots from inside Rod Millen's Mazda.
For each driver, the race lasts less than 15 minutes. But what this race lacks in distance, it makes up for in difficulty and danger. Explorer Zebulon Pike once predicted no one would ever climb the mountain that bears his name. But it's not only been climbed, it's had an auto highway built to its 14,000-foot summit, and cars have been racing up to it since 1917. That makes this race second only to the Indy 500 as America's oldest race. The most intensely fought battle was in the open rally class. Millen's Mazda tied an old course record for top speed, over 117 miles an hour, but not even that was good enough for a victory. Peugeot's bright yellow three-car team of Finland's Ari Vatanen, Andrea Zanussi of Italy, and Kenya's Shekhar Mehta also smashed the old course records, but not even that was good enough. Instead, it was Germany's Walter Röhrl driving an updated version of the Audi Quattro that Bobby Unser won with here a year ago that again took the victory. Röhrl became the first driver to run the 12-mile course in less than 11 minutes. In the stock cars, Leonard Boschholtz of nearby Woodland Park, Colorado, successfully defended his title over a big field that included Roger Mears, the Indy veteran. John Crawford of Northville, Michigan, drove his Dodge Shelby to victory over his neighbor, Doug Shepard of Plymouth, Michigan, in the California overcame a week of technical troubles to beat brothers Bobby and David Donner of Colorado Springs.
Robbie Unser, Bobby's son, racing with a broken leg, carried the family colors at the peak. Robbie won the Group A rally class and finished 10th in the open rally division. And the president of the Hill Climb Association, whom most associate this event's survival to, 48-year-old Charlie Tutt, says he will not seek re-election to that post. He's been president for the last 9 years, but says he does not have enough time to do the job properly. The climb lost a major sponsor this year, Predator Carburetors, and the purse was the smallest in the last 9 years.
The Pikes Peak Hill Climb was just one of several events sanctioned by the United States Auto Club last weekend. Another was at Indianapolis Raceway Park Saturday night. Dirt cars on pavement. Gary Lee has details.
It was a hot, humid summer's night, and nobody wanted to win the Pepsi-Cola 150 at Indianapolis Raceway Park. At the start, Rich Vogler jumped out in front and opened a commanding lead until the car slowed, giving the top spot to the versatile Kenny Schrader, who only led 2 laps when the bell housing broke, sending him to the pit area. Handing the lead to USAC sprint car champ Steve Butler, with the V6 mounted Bob Prix giving chase. Butler would wear his right rear down, slowing his progress. The V6, with its lightweight, ran to the lead until Gary Bettenhausen caught up.
I knew he was going to be my only competition late in the race. So after I got by him, and then he stuck his nose underneath me a couple of times, and I saw him, I just figured, well, I'll tease him just long enough and make him use up his right rear tire a little bit more, and if I could get him to burn his tire off, the rest of the race would be easy for me.
Jack Hewitt caught Fry and passed him for second before Fry dropped out with a cracked oil tank. Gary led until lap 137 when his car quit.
The engine just sputtered and popped about 3 times and went dead, and it's either a magneto or a wire or a fuel pump drive.
Hewitt became the leader with second Jeff Bloom a lap down. Hewitt babied the car to make the tires last, but a motor problem stopped him in turn 3 on the last lap, giving a steady Jeff Bloom to win. Behind Bloom was Hewitt, Butler, Rick Hood, and Jeff Swindell. For Speedweek, I'm Gary Lee.
And across that town Thursday, Indianapolis Speedrome. Now, every night this year, with usually 50 entries, is survival of the fittest, but this, slightly more. Heat action highlighted by one of the Speedrome's 3 lady racers, Christine Green, who broke her roll cage on the wall, and this, no injury. Bill Pennington, driving one of the Midwest's oldest midgets, a Curtis Craft, put a few more years on the car at this start. But the main began with a big bang, too. In the pack, the white car jumping first is Dude Tool, and then a logjam, and local Ron Dink Glidden takes one of the wildest 5th-mile rides you can take. On this dramatic ground-level angle, you can see Dan Borse in yellow slowing when Tool bounces, and then the so-called fun begins. Glidden is waving even before the car stops that he's okay. He knew his mom was watching live. Rich Vogler began one of his patented drives through the field as front-row starter Ron Eden tried to distance himself from the rest of the field. But several cautions, most happening right in front of Rich, kept the field bunched. Rich's performance was miraculous.
Well, I like to say it's just pure skill, but as all race fans and drivers know, that it takes a little luck. And I got lucky when a few times the guys crashed in front of me and I was able to get through it. I'd say it's just a fantastic night.
Rest of the top 5, a very deserving Eden second, then Blake Hollingsworth, Larry Rice, and Ron Ambrose, all driving solid races.
Next year, NCRA will drop their sanction of championship dirt cars and will run sprint cars instead with 16 square-foot wings. World of Outlaw sprints currently run 25 square-foot wings, but may be considering a reduction to 16.
In other USAC midget...
The 60s, not too bad of a breeze, and we have sunny skies.